topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Draw me close to you, never let me go. I lay it all down again to hear you say that I'm a friend.
Today, the Almighty Creator desires a deep personal relationship with you. My name is James Robertson. I'm a researcher, publisher, and teacher regarding the matters and truths of the Almighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. I've been actively serving him since 1993, over 31 years. If you're not actively serving Yah, then by default you're serving Satan. My objective is to show you how you can make a big difference on earth and qualify for a position of high esteem in heaven for eternity. It's important to understand that as a believer, just being good is not the point. It's relationship with Yah that counts. Without this, you will be in a very unpleasant place in heaven with no way out. My aim is to show you how to get close to Father. If you're a good person without a clear relationship with Yah, then you're in a spiritual no man's land and will not enter heaven when you die. The Creator has said regarding unbelievers, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? Yah is calling everybody on the planet to be involved and serve him and help him to have victory over Satan. My goal is to show you how to do this. Fundamentally, we each need to learn to see things on earth from Yah's perspective, and my aim is to teach you how. Please visit my website, www.endtimeissueministries.org, or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org for more information. Today we're going to talk about the power and authority of living above sin. The overview. In this article, I will share an extremely important truth that I learned by accident in 2010. That as a believer free of sin, one has massive power and authority over the Satanic and Demonic Realm, and they cannot touch you. Finally, we'll look at the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator. So this is based on the article 2024-12-11, The Power and Authority of Living Above Sin. I want to start off with a few Bible verses to evidence that the forces of darkness cannot touch those that are free of sin. A few verses to confirm the principle. Luke 4:20, Yahushua, incorrectly called Jesus by most people, is taken to be thrown off a cliff and walks through the crowd untouched. So Luke 4:28, all the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove him out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill in which the town was built, in order to throw him off the cliff. But he walked right through the crowd and went on his way. Because Yahushua was free of sin, the forces of darkness could not touch him. And I'll go into this in more detail in a few minutes, but people miss that point. Yeshua allowed them to take him up to the brow of the hill. And then he simply turned around and walked. And the crowd parted. How did that happen? Well, as an emissary and as apostle, he had 12 legions of messengers, 12,000 angels, 12,000 messengers. And all that happened was that they just gently pushed the people aside because he had no sin. The biggest miracle of Yeshua's life is that he lived for 33 and a half years and died a terrible death without sinning once. And we'll talk more about that as well. It's important to understand that later the crowd at Yeshua's betrayal and execution were only able to seize him and have Yahushua tortured and executed because Yahushua accepted the situation and did not ask for protection. Remember that he said in Mattiyahu, incorrectly Matthew 26:53, or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of messengers, incorrectly angels? Any person who is free of sin has messengers to protect them. All believers have at least a guardian messenger, but that messenger is constrained by the sin in that person's life. Once one is free of sin, one's messengers can operate effectively. So this is important to understand. You have, as a human being and a believer, you have at least one guardian angel, guardian messenger. And as the name implies, that messenger is there to protect you. So why do believers have accidents, etc.? Because, as I've discussed on other broadcasts, if you have sin, it gives the forces of darkness a legal right to attack you in some way. It may be an accident, it may be death, it may be cancer, it may be illness, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if you are a believer and you're free of sin, that guardian messenger will make sure that nothing touches you. So you have to recognize that if you are having things go wrong in your life, be it illness, be it accidents, whatever, it's because of sin. Then the second verse that I'd like to refer you to is Proverbs 26, verse 2, which says that a curse without a cause does not alight. So like a sparrow in its flitting, like a swallow in its flying, so a curse without cause does not alight. So we see that a curse that has no legal basis will not touch the person it is directed against. I'm going to talk about that in quite a bit of detail in a few minutes. But the important thing to understand here is if somebody's cursing you and it's having an effect, it's because there's sin in your life. If you are free of sin, that curse cannot touch you. Remembering that a curse is simply enforced by satanic messengers, angels, and demons. And they can't touch you if you're free of sin. And I'll elaborate on that in a few minutes. Then Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 to 30. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are cast into the furnace and delivered. So the king demands his people to worship an idol. The three Hebrew men refuse because the first commandment is worship Yah alone. So the king has them cast into a furnace that is so hot that the men who throw them into the furnace die, but the three men have their bonds burned off, and they walk about free in the furnace. The king says, "Look," he answered, "I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of Yah." 3 men were free of sin and in right standing with Yah. The fourth man was the spirit being who became Yeshua in his capacity of Yah's second in command, and in this case, in his capacity as messenger of Yah, the eternally self-existing, incorrectly the angel of the Lord. It's important to understand here, folks, referring to this person as the angel of Yah, the eternally of the Lord. Let's stick with the traditional language, the angel of the Lord, as opposed to saying he is the messenger of Yah, the eternally self-existing, gives it a totally different sense, because angels are not human beings. This being was a human being in the form of a human being, and it was Yahushua as he was before he lived on earth. And the key thing here is that these men had emunah, they had faith, but they were free of sin. Faith will not protect you if you've got sin in your life. Imuna, faith, cannot protect you. If you have stolen something, you can believe as much as you like that Yah will prevent people from stealing from you, and it's not going to help, because the forces of darkness are going to go before the throne, and they're going to say, have you looked at Johnny? He's stolen this, or lied about that, or he's in adultery on this, or whatever, and we're looking for a judgment. We want to steal this from him, or we want to burn his house down, or whatever. That can only happen if you've got sin in your life. Then Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 to 28, Daniel is cast into the den of lions, and he survives unscathed. The king gives instruction not to worship Yah. Daniel disobeys and is cast into the lion's den, but comes out alive the next day. Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My mighty one sent his messenger, incorrectly angel, and shut the lion's mouth, so they have not heard me. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. So there he's again saying he's innocent relative to the king, but he's innocent in the sight of Yah. And then it goes on, and the king says the ones that conspired against Daniel, throw them into the lion's den, and they basically are devoured virtually before they hit the ground. So I've seen children's books with a picture of Daniel sleeping with his head up against the daddy lion. And maybe it's true, maybe he did. But the key point is he had a munah, but more importantly, he was free of sin. He refused to bow to the king. He refused to obey the king in his instruction not to worship Yah. And that put him in right standing, and it meant that the forces of darkness couldn't touch him. So the messengers, just the angels, just shut the mouths of the lions. And then Book of Kings, 2 Kings, chapter 6, verses 13 to 18. Elisha surrounded by an army of messengers to protect him. Elisha and his servant are surrounded by an army of the enemy. The servant fears, and then Elisha prayed, O Yah, the eternally self-existing, incorrectly the Lord, please open his eyes that he may see. And Yah, the eternally self-existing, opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw that the hills were full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. There are other verses which further substantiate this. Repeated situations where Israel was in right standing with Yah, and their enemies were defeated for them. So, folks, the picture here is Elisha prays, Yah opens the eyes of the young man, and he sees. And those messengers, those angels, those angelic forces, those forces of Yah's servants, are around any believer who is free of sin. And I'll share more about how I came to fully understand this in a few minutes. So the basis of this is no sin equals no judgment. If you look on the website, the article, The Essence of My Message Concerning Judgment in This Life, discusses in detail the exact basis of judgment in this life. Why and how bad things happen to true believers because of sin in their lives. In simple terms, Yah sits on the throne of judgment in the court of heaven. The court of judgment, remember, we speak about a court as a place where judges sit and they pass judgment. So the court of heaven is a place of judgment. Yahushua, our advocate, pleads for mitigation of sentence, primarily for young believers. So if you've just come to belief and you do something that's sin, and the satanic messengers come and say, okay, Joe has done such and such, and we want to do this and this. And Yeshua says, Father Joe's only been a believer for 2 weeks. And before he came to belief, he was stealing. and he's trying to give it up, but he hasn't managed to give it up. Yes, I ask for mitigation of sentence, and Yah may say, okay, don't touch him. Or you can cause him to sprain his ankle, but don't go further than that. Whatever. Folks, it's a very, very specific process. And then the satanic messengers, the accusers of the brethren, bring charges against believers for sin. Where the sin is clear and there are no mitigating circumstances, Yah gives a judgment, permitting the satanic and demonic realm to cause harm to the believer in question. A couple of cases from my own experience. On one occasion, I'd done something, I'd said something, and I thought something, and it was sin. And a day or two later, I'm driving on a highway at speed 70 kilometers an hour, and traffic on either side of me, traveling fast, and a truck wheel falls off the bed of a truck in front of me and lands in front of me. I can't swerve left or right because there are cars on either side. All I can do is brake, and I hit this wheel full on with my right wheel. The car's still drivable. Get to the next off-ramp, pull off at the garage. The wheel is standing at an angle. I phone the insurance company. They send out a vehicle, and they pull my car onto the flatbed truck, and they take it to a garage to be repaired. It took about 3 weeks to repair the car. Thankfully, I had a insurance that provided me with a courtesy car. The point was that in a very specific way, I was judged appropriately for my sin. So there was at least one, if not more, satanic messenger on the back of that truck that caused that wheel to fall off in front of me. Another occasion, I'd also committed sin, didn't realize it was sin, and I ground my teeth at night, and one of my teeth split. I went to the dentist, they patched it up, they didn't realize it was split. It went septic. I was in agony for a week. I got that I'd committed sin. Don't ask me exactly how it all worked, but the fact of the matter is, if you have sin in your life, you will get judged. If you're a believer, if you're not a believer, these things don't apply, folks. If you're an unbeliever, Yah's not interested in what you do. Yeshua is somewhat concerned about getting you saved. Yah's tired of unbelievers, frankly. So the thing to realize is that that judgment process is the only way the forces of darkness can touch a believer. See the first 3 chapters of the book of Job to see how judgment operates. Job was guilty of fear with the first judgment, where he lost his children and all his possessions, and he was guilty of pride, where he was afflicted in his person, his body. If you fully understand judgment in this life, it will become apparent that if there is no sin, there's no basis for accusation. And if there's no basis for accusation, there cannot be a basis for judgment. And therefore, the satanic and demonic realm cannot touch such a believer or cause them harm in any way. I can't stress this enough, folks. If you're a believer and things are going wrong in your life, it's because you've got sin. You may not realize it's sin, but the forces of darkness know that it's sin. So then a few personal experiences from my side that evidence and elaborates what I've been saying. I discovered the principle practically in 2010. Before that, I sent Satan to the pit in 2003. In 2001, Yah called me to prepare to bring Satan before the court of heaven and have him sentenced to 1,000 years in the pit, Revelation 20, verses 1 to 3. Important to understand, Yah could not do it. A human being free of sin had to do it. As a consequence, I underwent a rigorous process to cleanse myself of all sin and spiritual defilement. See the ebook, 7 Components in Drawing Close to the Creator, particularly the section on cleansing, for more on that. That document, if you hover your mouse over or your thumb over the word home in the top left-hand corner of the website. Under that, you'll find a number of documents, including the 7 components in Drawing Close. On the 3rd of May 2003, the Spirit of Yah came upon me, and I had Satan arrested by Michael, and Gabriel, the 2 archangels, the 2 supreme commanders of the angelic messenger throng. I convened the court of heaven. Father Yah, I ask you to convene the court. And by the Spirit, I read out the charges against Satan for his crimes against humanity. I then asked for a sentence for 1,000 years in the pit, and I instructed Michael and Gabriel to cast him into the pit. Now you may say to me, Revelation 21-3 says, an angel. At the time, I wasn't going to take chances, so I told both archangels to cast him into the pit. It's my prerogative. I'm not a glove puppet. I had some liberty in what I did there. I knew what needed to be done before the Spirit came on me. I didn't know all the details. The details unfolded by the Spirit as it progressed. I only had the authority to do this because I was free of sin. That means free of wrong names, not worshipping Jesus or worshipping Yahushua or worshipping Messiah, not worshipping the Bible, putting the Bible on a pedestal, calling the Bible the Word of God, not worshipping Muhammad, saying that if you say something bad about Muhammad, I'm going to kill you, not worshipping the Quran, same thing, using correct names, observing correct Sabbaths, not observing Christmas and Easter, free of all legacy sins, etc. Subsequent to the 3rd of May 2003, I continued to walk free of sin, and barring very occasional slip-ups, for which I've been quickly judged and quickly repented, I've lived without sin ever since. It's not that difficult. It just requires resolve and discipline, and you need to know what sin really is. So I've shared with you 2 instances where I was judged. I've been praying for many years. I first prayed in 1998, I believe. Father, judge me severely and correct me harshly that I may serve you more perfectly. I prayed that on and off from about 2000, 2001, and more recently in the last, 5-10 years, I've prayed it most days. If you listen to my recording of what I put down as daily prayers, it's on the website. I pray that every night. Father, judge me severely and correct me harshly that I may serve you more perfectly. If you look at my signature to my email articles, you'll find that that's there. Judge me severely, correct me harshly that I may serve you more perfectly. By doing that and being brought up short when I have sinned, I've been able to walk pretty free of sin since 2001. So I've just said to you, if you are serious about serving Father and you really want to get your life right, and you've gone through the processes that I describe in that ebook, The 7 Components of Drawing Close, and done a spiritual audit and gone back and cleaned up your life, and you've studied what's on my website, and you've made sure that you've got the names right, the Sabbaths right, etc., then you can start praying, Father, judge me severely and correct me harshly, that I may serve you well perfectly. It's the one sure way to live without sin and to correct quickly when you do slip. See the article 2012-1107, Yah, judge me severely. I also pray, show us the level of our present deception and how to correct it on a regular basis, and lead us into all truth by your Spirit on a regular basis. If you're serious about getting your life right with Yah, pray that prayer every day. Make it part of your daily routine. And I have to say to you that Father is gentle and kind. He will not judge you beyond what you can endure. With the case of the car accident, I was not touched physically. I just had a bit of inconvenience because of the damage to my car, which was insured. So I just had to pay the excess. In the case of the tooth, it was a lot more personal, and I had to suffer for 5 days before I had the tooth extracted. But I could handle it. I was in agony. I didn't enjoy it, but I could handle it. And that's available to you. If you start praying that prayer, Father will not judge you more severely than you can handle. Then I want to talk about 10,000 demons with no impact. Following sending Satan to the pit for 1,000 years, when I ministered deliverance to others, I would command the demons to go to the pit for 1,000 years. In 2010, I discovered that I was in error. I did not have the authority to send them to the pit for 1,000 years, as their crimes did not warrant such a harsh sentence. As a consequence, all the demons I'd cast out of others had come onto me. I was carrying over 10,000 demons, but they were not touching me. The prophetess who ministered deliverance to me said that the only person that she had come across with more demons than I had was the chief witch of France. So it's heavy stuff, folks, but they weren't touching me because I was free of sin. I subsequently learned to minister deliverance by saying, I speak to the demons of whatever the name of the demons was, pride, whatever. I cast you out, tear you down, and command you to go where Father Yah sends you in the name of Yahushua. Father, I ask you to send your mighty warring messengers to bind, tear down, cast out, and send where you want to go. The demons that I've named in the name of Yeshua. So important where Father wants them to go, not where I want them to go, and not where you want them to go. Father, send them where you want them to go. Then death curses and human sacrifices were powerless. At the same time, this prophetess, spokeswoman, revealed that I had about 160 death curses invoked against me by Satanists who were out to get me. And those two were not touching me. I was driving around. I wasn't having accidents. I wasn't completely unaware. I was living completely normally. And then there were also about 50 human sacrifices offered against me, mostly abortions. And those two were having no effect. From this experience, I realized that since I was free of sin, the Satanic and Demonic Realm had no hold on me. Folks, this is such an important lesson that I learned. And it's there for you to take up and make your own. If you have no sin, nothing can go wrong in your life. Which, just to make a distinction, you can still make mistakes. There's a big difference between mistakes and sin. So sin is breaking one of the 10 commandments and a few other bits and pieces, but it's primarily breaking one of the 10 commandments, which means that you have to have the correct understanding of the 10 commandments. Mistakes are, oh, I forgot to phone this person, or I did this and I didn't check in with Father before I did it, and I realized subsequently that because of that I've suffered this loss. I've gone through a period of intense loss in the last few months because of a series of decisions I took that I didn't consult Father. And so things happened. But I wasn't in sin. The house was divided, so in that sense there was sin and judgment. But it was a mistake. It was an error. I hope I'm making myself clear. And then defeating one of the most powerful demons on the planet. Shortly after this, the same powerfully anointed servant traveled to Zambia to minister. When she got there, she was informed that the witch doctors had been drumming against her for weeks. A day after she arrived, she was suddenly taken mysteriously ill and died. Her two assistants prayed her back to life, but she started going again. As she went, she told them to phone me. They got me on the phone, and I took authority over the spirit that was killing his father's servant, and she came back to life. Subsequently, she told me that the spirit that killed her was Molech, one of the 7 demonic masterminds that rule the earth. And that as I came on the line and took authority, he said, "I have to go now. You are more powerful than me." Again, evidencing the power and authority that is vested in a believer who is free of sin. This lady was still believing that Jesus was God, using the name Jesus. Bible was the word of God, and a couple of other sins, which opened her up to a death penalty. The key thing is that when I got there and took authority, one of the most powerful demons on the planet had to go. It said that I was more powerful than he was. Folks, believe me, I'm not inventing this. It was kind of like, you serious? I didn't know what I'm sharing with you then. That series of events over a period of a couple of months gave me to understand that because I was free of sin, the forces of darkness could not touch me. So I want to make the point that I'm an ordinary person. I want to stress that if you met me in person in the street, you'd find me a pretty unassuming, ordinary person. This authority stems from my standing with Yah as a servant free of sin. It has nothing to do with me as a human being in my own strength. You can look at me on this video and say, well, here's this guy with a Poloniex sweater, and he's a bit scruffy and looks a bit old to me. All true. If you met me in the street, you would not know that I had had the experiences that I've shared with you. Then people cursing killed by returned curses. A further example, in 2013-14, I was living in the Docklands area of London in the United Kingdom. We were living across the river from the headquarters of the Satanist movement on earth, and also the headquarters of the demonic masterminds. See the article, Satan Rules the World Through the Leadership of Demonic Masterminds and Human Satan Servants, for more information about the masterminds and Satanists. I realized that we were being cursed, so I started to pray, Father, I cut off all curses that have been spoken against us, and where those curses have been spoken by people who understand what they're doing, I ask you to return the curses in the magnitude that you deem appropriate. Curses stopped. Well, nearly. After about a year, Father told me I could cease praying that prayer because those who'd been cursing me were dead, and their colleagues were too scared to curse me. I've not been cursed on a major basis since then. I was chatting to an associate of mine in the ministry a few days ago, chap in Kenya. And out of some discussion, we identified that some time ago, a woman in his assembly who got offended with him had hired a witch doctor to curse him. So we just prayed to cut off the curses, and we prayed for the curses to be returned in the magnitude that Father deemed appropriate. I haven't heard if there have been any developments since then. I've encouraged this brother to pray this regularly. But it's a fact, folks. If you are a believer and you are doing something significant for Yah, there will be Satanists who know your name. They don't need to meet you. Remember, there is a satanic messenger, a satanic angel that follows you everywhere you go from the moment you believe. And they write down all that you do. And if you sin, they report back. And if you're doing something for Father, they report back, so that the hierarchy knows that Joe Smith is serving Yah, so they start cursing you. And depending on what you're doing at different levels of the hierarchy in the satanic movement, they will start cursing you. So Satanists, witches, etc. So it could be the chief witch, or it could be just one witch in the area where you live, or the witch doctor. And I've got a number of associations with people in Africa, and witch doctors are rife. And I've said to some of them, what you need to do is get to a point where you're free of sin, and then you can confront a witch doctor, bind their demons, make them go down, and then you can deal with the witch doctor when they've lost their power and discover that the one that you serve is more powerful than they are. Because it's not your power. It's the power of the name of Yeshua, because Yeshua lived his entire life without sin and gained that authority. So you come on the basis of King Yeshua, not on anything to do with you, other than that you need to be free of sin. And I would stress that the Bible does not contradict what I've shared with you. In sharing the above, someone referred me to 1 John 1 verse 8 to 10. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar and his word is not in us. There's a difference between saying we have never sinned, which is inherently false, versus coming to a point where one is living free of sin. Confessing sin as soon as we become aware of it is a vital component. Yeshua said that we would do the same and greater works than he did. John 14:12. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also, and greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. Yeshua lived without sin. Therefore, it is entirely possible for us to live without sin once we've cleaned up our lives, as per the 7 components of Drawing Close to Your document. Folks, there's a lot of wrong thinking out of the Bible. What I'm sharing with you is intuitively sound. If you sin, the forces of darkness will get judgment against you and something will go wrong in your life. If you're free of sin, the forces of darkness cannot get judgment. You have authority over them and you will take that exercise. You have the opportunity to exercise that authority. The fact is, you probably not, because you didn't know that you could. And by the way, trying to walk in that authority if you still have sin in your life is at best foolish and at worst dangerous. Consider my example of where I prayed incorrectly and I got the demons myself. If you are still worshiping Jesus and worshiping the Bible or worshiping the Quran and worshiping Muhammad or whatever, and you take authority over demons, is going to laugh at you or they're going to jump on you. There's a story in Acts of 2 men some men who tried to cast out demons in the name of Yeshua. And the demon said, Paul we know, and Yeshua we know, who are you? And they jumped on them and beat them up. So remember, Yeshua lived without sin. Therefore, it is entirely possible for us to live without sin once we've cleaned up our lives. Note that this requires that we strictly adhere to all of the 10 commandments and deal with all issues regarding names, misplaced esteem, and worship, including not worshipping Jesus or Muhammad or whoever, and not worshipping the Bible or the Quran or whatever. Use the true names, observe the true Sabbaths, and so forth. See the article, Compliance with the Commandments of Yah is necessary to live without sin. Note that a divided house is sin and will bring judgment and cause the house to fall, as discussed in previous articles. So in conclusion, life free of sin is powerful. The ultimate lesson from what I've just said is that living life free of sin is powerful and is, I suggest, a necessary adjunct to truly serving Yah effectively and powerfully. I'm advocating an extreme level of sanctification and set-apartness. And folks, if you're Muslim, and you say we don't worship Muhammad. Well, if you go around saying that if somebody insults the memory of Muhammad, I'm going to kill him, that's worship. If you go around saying if somebody speaks ill of the Quran or burns the Quran or defaces the Quran, I'm going to kill him, that's worship. So you need to stop. And if you stop, things will stop going wrong in your life. But you need to deal with the whole panoply. No lying, no adultery. You need to understand what adultery is. No murder, including no abortive contraceptives, etc. So I don't like doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Ever since starting End Time Issue Ministries, I've strenuously avoided asking for tithes and offerings, except in a very low-key manner. And I funded the ministry almost entirely myself with very limited tithes and offerings. And I found myself in a situation where, as a consequence of some issues where I made bad business decisions without consulting Father, my finances are in a severe state, and the services provided the ministry are at risk. Accordingly, if you feel you receive value from these broadcasts and other services, I'd like to request that you earnestly and prayerfully consider either a one-off donation as soon as possible or an ongoing weekly or monthly donation, depending on your finances. The donation link on the website, near the top of the website, will allow you to do that. Thanks so much. I don't want to labor the point. I'm uncomfortable doing this. So I want to end off by saying, what is the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator? I'd like to ask you to critically examine where you are relative to Him today. Do you talk to Him constantly throughout the day and allow Him to lead you in every possible way? Do you worship Him at every opportunity? Have you clearly and unambiguously heard Him call you friend? If not, you're failing in your life purpose and you'll be bitterly disappointed when you die. If you have now come to belief, please pray along the following lines. Father Yah, I come to you in the name of Yahushua. I now believe that you exist. I confess my sin of unbelief and repent of my unbelief, and I ask you to forgive my sin. I now commit my life to you, and I ask you to take me by the hand and lead me into deep relationship with you. I ask you to fill me with your Spirit and to change me and lead me to help me to become the person you want me to become. I ask you to help me find people who can help me and help me find books, websites, articles, and other resources that will help me. I ask you to show me what I can do to actively serve you and lead others to deep personal relationship with you. I thank you for saving me. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there is extreme grace to help you. See the article Critical Actions on First Belief on the website for actions you should take immediately. Drop me an email at james@endtimeissueministries.org so I can help you, pray with you, counsel you, etc. There's a wealth of information on the website, folks. So I encourage you to dip in there. You can use the table of contents. You can use the keyword cloud, which is an alphabetic listing of thousands of keywords to look for whatever it is you're searching for. In closing, thank you for listening. Please send me your questions to james@endtimeissueministries.org. Please email me to join the mailing list at james@endtimeissueministries.org. If you decide to draw close to the Almighty, please let me know and I can connect with you by Skype, Zoom, Teams, email, WhatsApp, or telephone so that I can help you with your journey. I hope to connect with you again next week when I will continue to explore how to become a friend of the Creator. Work with me to make a way for Yahushua to return in victory at the end of the millennium and make his enemies his footstool. So, folks, the key thing about becoming a friend is that you can become a friend no matter who you are today. It doesn't matter whether you're African, Indian, Asian, European, Caucasian, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Satanist, witch, warlock, whatever, rich or poor, educated or uneducated, tall or short, blonde, blue eyes, black hair, brown eyes. It doesn't matter. Yah wants you to become his friend. Just pray, Father, James says, I can become your friend. Help me to become your friend, and then do whatever you find to do. Friend is somebody who listens, who talks, consults, participates, involves Yah in their lives. I ask you, I urge you to become such a person. I urge you to make that decision right now and say, Father Yah, I choose to become your friend. Please. He's lonely. He wants friends. There's hardly any friends on the planet, folks. Unless you're making a real effort, you don't feature on that scale. Please do it. For those of you who've been on the channel for a while, you're probably going to drop off now. For those of you who are new or been on this once or twice, please hold on. I've got something I want to share with you. So to those who are leaving, good night. And to the rest of you, I'd just like to say in closing, who am I? James Robertson. I have a doctorate in engineering and I'm a retired military commander. I now work as a management consultant. I have over 31 years' experience of actively seeking to draw close to the Almighty, following a dramatic encounter with him on the 12th of March 1993, when he spoke to me audibly in a locked room and I knew for certain that he was real. In learning about Father, I applied my deep-seated aversion to failure born out of an accident in early childhood, coupled to my engineering and military training of rigor in preventing failure, to my seeking of knowledge about Father. This journey led to numerous supernatural experiences, prayers answered, and clear communication with the Creator that forms the basis for what I teach in these programs. See the video, Why Seek Relationship, for an overview of what I believe. Please visit my website at www.endtimemissionministries.org. The ETI version of the Bible with corrections of translation errors is available on the ETI Bible version page. For recordings of nearly all of the teachings broadcast so far, look with Google for Relationship with Creator Radio and see also the website relationshipwithcreatorradio.com. Transcripts are on the transcripts of broadcast page, and most of those have downloads for the actual songs as well. Books with teachings from 1998 till May 2019 are visible at the Books and Printing page. I publish regular email articles. Email me on james@endtimemissionministries.org to be added to the list or to seek counsel or prayer or give me feedback. Visit the website and use the Google search, the article keyword cloud, the table of contents, and the article search to locate the information you're looking for. Folks, that's all for today. I'm going to say to you, good night, go well, and I look forward to seeing you here next Friday. Thank you.
Father, I come to you, lifting up my hands. By your grace I stand, just because you love me. I know your favorite.
Hi, I'm James Robertson. Do you realize the power and authority that go with living a life free of sin? If you're not sure, then please listen to my broadcast on w4cy.com internet radio or talk4tv.com internet TV. Also visit my website at www.endtimeinstituteministries.org and also see the broadcasts back issues on relationshipwithcreatorradio.com for back issues of the broadcasts, or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org to find out more. Thank you so much. Good night.